and Ken Show, John Kobylt and Ken Chiampou. So, Mitt Romney gave a off-the-cuff speech to wealthy donors earlier this year, and Mother Jones, a left-wing magazine, has it on its website. We have it on our website now. It's going to be the talk of everywhere for a little while because this is Romney. If you thought he was a robot, if you thought he was scripted, if you thought he had no soul, that there was nothing in there but mechanics, this speech proves otherwise. But it's going to cause a firestorm probably because he tells the truth.
Well, yeah, it's really about self-responsibility and becoming too dependent on government. It's a speech we've always made about we don't want the U.S. to turn into Greece. But, of course, this will be twisted by the other side of the media, and it's not conservative left-wing. As you know, if you listen to this show regularly, a lot of times we don't sound like another right-wing extremist show. But on this, we agree. You should be responsible for yourself. You should not be trying to get away with taking as much government money as you can. It's going to turn this country into a hell of a place to live.
You simply, society can't function when almost half the people feel entitled. And once this ticks up, right? He says it's 47%. Once this ticks up a little higher, and a majority are not paying taxes, and a majority are getting checks from the government, and a majority feel entitled, then all you're going to get is political hack politicians to feed that entitlement beast. And then America dies. It does. Now, it dies financially, dies economically.
If you want to know how this works, many of the Americans who owe no income tax get the basic exemption, the standard deduction. Once that's taken, their taxable income falls below the cutoff levels, and that's why they owe no federal income tax, just so you get an idea.
Yeah, so
it's not completely unemployed people we're talking about.
No, but it's people in the lower classes, even some middle class people. They don't pay income tax. I mean, you really have the top 50% paying almost all the income tax.
Which makes you wonder about this screaming debate about making the wealthy pay their fair share. I'm not here to defend the wealthy, but when you think about 47% paying no income tax at all, what is that?
In California,
what's the fair share there?
In California, the wealthy, just from state and federal income tax, get taxed at a 46% rate once they pass a certain threshold. Which means at one point they're giving away half their income to the state and federal government. Now, that's not a fair share. I mean, he spoke bluntly, and I wish somebody would run a campaign where they speak bluntly. This is something you didn't hear from any of the other candidates either, Democrat or Republican, during those idiot primaries. You didn't hear any of this. So he says here, Romney also told contributors that women are open to supporting me, but that we're having a much harder time with Hispanic voters.
No, I read that one, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just resetting it up. And he then talks about the focus groups. And I don't think people hear the term focus groups. I don't think you have any idea how the focus groups rule politics. They rule television. They rule the marketing of products. They rule the world. They'll get about a dozen of you in a room. They'll watch you through one-way glass. They'll have a facilitator keeping the conversation moving, and they get people talking about the product, whether it's Mitt Romney, a sitcom, or a bar of soap. And then the experts behind the glass look and see what the hot buttons are, because they look at the world in stereotypes. They look at the world as white-collar voters, blue-collar voters, liberals, and conservatives, and rural people and city people and whites and blacks and Hispanics. Everybody's a stereotype to the focus group crowd. And they try to extrapolate that if they say 3 or 4 people in the focus group that feel a certain way about a certain issue, they can extrapolate that many millions feel that way.
Well, here he says, we speak with voters across the country about their perceptions. Those people I told you, the 5 to 6 to 7% that we have to bring onto our side, they all voted for Barack Obama 4 years ago. So, and by the way, when you say to them, do you think Barack Obama's a failure? They overwhelmingly say no, they like him. But when you say, are you disappointed that his policies haven't worked? Oh, they say yes. And because they voted for him, they don't want to be told that they were wrong, that he's a bad guy, that he did bad things, that he's corrupt. Those people that we have to get, they want to believe they did the right thing, but it just hasn't or wasn't up to the task. They love the phrase that, quote, he's over his head. But you see, you and I, we spend our day with Republicans. We spend our day with people who agree with us. And these people are people who voted for him and don't agree with us. And so the things that animate us are not the things that animate them. And the best success I have at speaking with those people is saying, the president's been a disappointment. He told you he'd keep unemployment below 8%. Hasn't been below 8% since. 50% of kids coming out of high school can't get a job. 50%. 50% of the kids in high school in our 50 largest cities won't graduate from high school. What are they going to do? These are the kinds of things that I can say to that audience, and they nod their heads and say, yeah, I think you're right. What's he going to do, by the way? Is try and vilify me as someone who's been successful or who, closed businesses or laid people off and is an evil, bad guy. And that may work. He actually said that. And that may work. Which is what Obama has been trying to do.
Yeah.
That he's an out-of-touch, wealthy one-percenter. Or even less than that. And
then he talks about why the campaign is no place for high-minded and detail-oriented arguments. It's disgusting. It's so irritating to listen to all candidates talk because they never talk about anything that matters in any great detail. And he said, here's why. Well, I wrote a book that lays out my view for what has to happen in the country, and people who are fascinated by policy will read the book. We have a website that lays out white papers on a whole series of issues that I care about. I have to tell you, I don't think this will have a significant impact on my electability. I wish it did. I think our ads will have a much bigger impact. I think the debates will have a big impact. My dad used to say, being right early is not good in politics. And in a setting like this, a highly intellectual subject, a discussion on a whole series of important topics typically doesn't win elections. For instance, this president won because of, quote, hope and change. And that is an astonishing truth. But those three words, this is me talking here, those three words, hope and change, is what decided the last election.
Oh, definitely.
Nobody's issues. Not the white papers, not the 59-point economic plan on the website, not the books, not the foreign policy, none of that. Obama said hope and change, and John McCain didn't. And had he tried, he would have looked foolish because, he was 75 years old, and he's part of the old guard. And people were so disgusted, and rightfully so, with the Bush years, that hope and change sounded fresh, and Obama fit the part perfectly.
And I like the part where he said, we can't convince people that Obama's evil or he's a bad guy. We just have to convince people he's just over his head and his policies didn't work. Because there is something about you want to affirm what you did. And if you voted for Obama in 2008, you don't really want to be told, oh, what a mistake, what an idiot you were.
No, you don't.
Hope and change. I realize a lot of people that vote Republican and vote Romney like to do that. They have bumper stickers on their cars. How do you feel about hope and change now? But what he's saying is that collection of voters we need has to be told a different story. They don't need to be mocked. They just need to be told, it didn't work, let's try me.
That's right. The crazy stuff is not persuasive, which is why I have such a disdain for all the ideologues and the right and left-wing crazies. They shout the same crap over and over again. They persuade no one. It's almost like they have some kind of Tourette syndrome where they have to just blather their nonsense and their insults and their conspiracy theories and all the rest. But they don't persuade people. He got 53% of the vote. You have to take that as a fact. And now you got to get about 4% to change their minds. And they don't want to change their minds because they like him. And you could scoff and snort all you want about that. But nobody's going to convince you to change your vote, are they?
Oh, yeah.
Well, why do you think it should be so easy for other people to change theirs when they've emotionally invested in somebody who they like?
No, you're right. If you honestly want Obama out, you can't be listening to the people in their cocoon of sort of that, extreme talk radio where Obama's the big Satan and he's the evil that's going to destroy America. Because you're right, that 3, 4, 5% you need to swing over isn't going to be swayed by that kind of out there stuff.
In fact,
they need to hear the basic stuff.
The crazy stuff.
That Obama's a good guy. He really wanted to do something for me. It hasn't worked out. Let's do something else.
The crazy stuff scares the independent voters who went for Obama last time. They don't want to be lumped in with lunatics. They don't want to be thought of as, they don't want to be thought of as those people, like those crazy people that seem to, are everywhere in the media now, everywhere. But you know what? When you watch your favorite cable channel and you listen to your favorite radio show and you read your favorite website every day and you talk to all the people in your neighborhood who are just like you get a very insular, very narrow view of the world. And what happens is you don't have any understanding anymore how to persuade somebody who's in the middle, who you need on your side.
All right, when we come back, Jerry Brown talking to any editorial board with any newspaper outlet he can in California and delivering the same message. It's all over if his taxes don't win on November 6th. We'll talk about it next.
John and Ken Show, KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio.
It's here. The biggest live music event in radio history happens Friday and Saturday at the MGM Grand.
John and Ken Show continues. John Kobylt and Ken Chiampou.
Well, now some words of wisdom and wit from Jerry Brown. First of all, I did misspeak earlier this hour in that I was kind of thinking, well, if Prop 30 fails to win on November 6th, what's to stop Jerry Brown from asking the legislature to raise the taxes next year if they get their veto-proof 2/3 in Sacramento? But I was reminded of all people by the pundit with the LA Times, Red Skelton, that Jerry Brown did promise not going to raise taxes unless we vote to raise taxes. So that may be the little sticking point there for him, and that promise he made.
But Skelton also pointed out that if they have the 2/3, they could pass the tax, he vetoes it, and they could override his veto.
I thought that was a little inside, but that could be a scenario to get around the pledge.
Well, they're horrible, horrible people. So
I know. Well, anyway, Jerry Brown has been sitting down with editorial boards anywhere around the state that'll talk to him. The San Francisco Chronicle is the latest. And here's what they wrote. Governor Jerry Brown is willing to remake California in his own austere image, but he doesn't think the 37 million people living in the Golden State will like it. He said California faces a day of reckoning this November, when they'll have to make the hard choice about how much government they're willing to pay. There's a lot of magical thinking in Washington and in Sacramento, and maybe, I might even say, Western civilization, Brown said. We had it easy, and now the moment of truth is upon us. We got to pay for what we want, and if we don't want to pay, then we have to deprive ourselves of that which we would like, and it's very hard to get people to make that choice. And, most people I talk to wonder where their tax money goes in California.
The way he frames it, you can't accept the way he frames it. He has to explain why we spend triple on our prison systems than other states do on a per-prisoner basis. You start with something like that. Why is it? Why is it that we have the highest paid teachers in the country and such terrible test scores and such terrible graduation rates in the cities? That's how you frame the debate. Not that you have to do without. Yeah, how about we have a prison system that costs 1/3 of what it does now, like all the other states? Why is that? Why do we have these huge pensions that you don't fight against? You are bought off by all the unions. I mean, he goes into a dementia rant at the end of this story here.
Well, first, I'll put it in context with this quote. Hey, I'm ready for austerity, okay? This is if Prop 30 fails. I took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. I'm ready, okay? I don't recommend it, but we'll do whatever is needed within the law to balance the budget and do the work of government the best way I can. And now what John's referring to comes at the end of the story on this interview with Jerry Brown. To illustrate his approach to austerity, he began pointing at objects around his office. You can read this first part, John.
This is my desk. I paid for it, he said, pounding his fist on a large table. That desk, I paid for that. That little thing belonged to my father. That table, I paid for that, okay? I didn't fix the rug. That's Arnold's rug, pointing at stains on the carpet.
Oh, no. What do you think? Arnold and stains.
Mildred.
Yes.
Do you think she came to Sacramento?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Right on the carpet.
Well, remember, it's believed that Arnold, whatever's available, he takes.
Oh, yeah. Do a DNA inspection of those stains.
Oh, that was good. And then, this is even crazier, he wondered aloud how he could be any cheaper, adding that he ate a 2-day-old tuna fish sandwich for lunch on Friday.
2-day-old tuna fish?
Oh, tuna gets...
Suck it in.
And if it has any mayonnaise in it, that's dangerous.
Him and Gray Davis. What the heck? Davis did the dry chicken and broccoli routine.
Turkey.
Turkey, that's right.
Turkey and broccoli was his everyday meal.
And
Jerry was disciplined that way. He ate the same lunch every day.
You know what? See,
Jerry Brown eats 2-day-old tuna fish sandwiches.
I'm so sick of reporters pointing out how cheap he is in his private life. That doesn't matter if he's whored out to the unions. and they all get their raises, and they get their job protections, and they get their pensions protected.
You're absolutely
It
right.
doesn't matter if he's cheap and he takes $39 flights on Southwest Air.
And then, he plays at the margins. Well, I cut the cars on the cell phones.
Well, yeah, that's all
But
bull
billions
crap.
in pensions is what you need to go after. That's what's going to make a difference.
He signed a budget that guaranteed no teacher in the state would be laid off this year.